Disneyland just announced more things closing on the west end of the park, and it got my gears turning. Is there a major project that hasn't been announced yet coming to the west end of Disneyland? Bricky here, breaking down some closures and trying to read the tea leaves on what's happening to the edge of Critter Country and New Orleans Square, and how this could be a very, very small play into a very, very big future. This is the perfect time for Disney to fix one of the greatest problems they have on the western end, which, let's not forget, soon this will be a gateway to the future. Friends, could it be possible that this bridge right here is soon to be replaced as Critter Country is getting re-massaged for Tiana's Bayou adventure? Because once you pass Fowler's Harbor and you get directly in front of the old Splash Mountain, now Tiana's Bayou adventure, opening later this fall, you are going across a bridge that takes you over the flumes that are taking that U-turn after taking the big drop and working their way back into the show building for the third and final scene, the third act. This bridge doesn't exist like this out at the Magic Kingdom. Out at the Magic Kingdom, guests are pushed all the way far back, seeing the complete attraction from its outer edge. That's because Magic Kingdom has an enormous amount of space and Disneyland doesn't. And Splash Mountain was actually built recessed down into the ground so that it wouldn't be as tall as the Matterhorn and overshadow the park's main mountain in the Central Plaza. Currently, all of Critter Country is completely closed. No big deal. We knew that was going to happen for the reimagining of Splash Mountain over to Tiana's Bayou adventure. But the closures are growing after the holiday weekend. We are seeing the little snack cart on the other side of Fowler's Harbor close. We are seeing the canoes close, and we are also, most importantly, seeing the Hungry Bear close. 3 new locations going down, 3 locations that all sit outside of Critter Country. And currently, we're able to go through here, but after the holiday week, this will all be locked out, which means that they need to be able to fully get out front of Tiana. They need to rework all the pathways, and this got me to thinking, between Critter Country and New Orleans Square is an obstacle that has for quite some time been a metaphorical thorn in the side of many citizens of Disneyland. That bridge has been difficult for many citizens of Disneyland to work their way over and back across for decades now. Now, everything from the edge of what we know today as Critter Country all the way up to the other side of the crest of the bridge that I'm standing on, which is on the back side of Fowler's Harbor. It's the walkway that you would take from the Haunted Mansion, continuing west over to Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Everything before the bridge starts, all the way over to Hungry Bear, essentially, Galaxy's Edge is going to be closing after the busy holiday week, 4th of July weekend into July 8th. All of this is going to be closing. If Critter Country is already closed at the very edge of it, because obviously they're redoing all the shops, they're redoing all the walkways. If you look at my footage of Tiana's Bayou adventure out at the Magic Kingdom, you can see how the load-unload barn that was converted over from Splash exists. Like, they're gonna need plenty of room inside of Critter Country to take care of everything. And when we look at photos provided to us by our friends over at Mice Chat, we can see that it's down to dirt. Like all that beautiful landscaping, the beautiful little creek that takes you over to the mini adventures of Winnie the Pooh, like it's all gone for now. But my question for you is this: if everything before the bridge is now closing, even though at the moment they have complete access to Critter Country, why is this project expanding more to the east? My theory is, friends, are we getting a new bridge inside of Disneyland? How about you subscribe to Hey Bricky right now, as what we always do on this channel is we look back at Disneyland's past so we can better predict its future, breaking down the heart, art, and design of Disneyland, my favorite place and yours. Thank you so much for subscribing to Hey Bricky. I appreciate you going on this journey with me. Now let's get right back to it. And now this also makes me think about, where is the opening timeline of Tiana's Bayou Adventure? Because cosmetically, it looks pretty good to go. And there was a moment where we saw water in the flume, so they have done some testing of the actual ride itself. But ripping all this apart, building a new bridge, if that is indeed what they're doing, that's going to take some time. They're still projecting that it will be end of the year, and I think it will be closer to the end of the year than the middle of the year. My early, just off the top of my head projection would be, I see this being like a November thing. I don't see this happening in October. I think November into December seems about right for how fast Disney has been moving these days inside of Disneyland. That's just my guess though. I could be way off, and who knows? If we get a lot of rain when they're doing foundation work, that could all be moved over to January as well. So it is definitely a wait and see. And even the bridge that I'm projecting today is a wait and see. But isn't that the fun of all of this? And for those of you being responsible Disneyland fans and doing what you're supposed to do and always being stressed about the Haunted Mansion, I think these closures all indicate that the Haunted Mansion will be up and running, but they are really gonna need something over here, because the closest attraction you'll be able to get to will be Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, as all of this will be completely closed, just boarded off at each end. So this does bode well, I think, for the Haunted Mansion coming back sooner than later. And keep in mind, if my projections of Disneyland Forward are correct, this sleepy thoroughfare is going to become a major artery to Disneyland's growth. Because friends, if I'm reading the tea leaves properly for Disneyland Forward, this pathway right here will be the way that we get into whatever expansion happens over in the parking lot that sits north of the Disneyland Hotel, but south of Pixar Pals and Mickey and Friends parking garage. That area in there is earmarked for Disneyland expansion. And this is the path that leads us straight into the Promised Land. So making sure that tens of thousands of people every day that are coming along this thoroughfare to get over to the new theme park expansion, think something like Fantasy Springs, not those properties, but just sort of a cul-de-sac land that's tucked and hid away where you don't see it until you go through a tunnel or over a bridge. But just imagine the amount of folks that will be coming this way every single day from sunrise to sunset and returning back at the end of the day. So fixing this grade now would be the perfect time to do it. While you're already in there, you have everything ripped up, Critter Country down to dirt, soon the edge of New Orleans Square with a massive construction project. This is the time. Like, I can't imagine any other moment where they're going to have the ability to shut all of this down. So yes, these closures could be because they know that they need all that extra space, but I'm dreaming a little bit bigger here with a new potential bridge on the way. What does that mean for the second bridge, the outer bridge? The bridge that takes us from sweet, sweet Fowler's Harbor around all of the traffic that's over on the main bridge. Like, they got to take both out, or they only take one out? And this is the big one. How do they overcome this grade? Where will they have to actually start leveling off the land? And then because Critter Country dips so far down, how will this all connect and be better and easier for people that have a hard time walking or rolling up and down the current grade? Like, I am fascinated to see where these new connection points lie. Maybe I'm over exaggerating it and it's not an ADA thing, and it's just they want a better flow so they can do a little bit more of an extreme grade but in a smaller spurt. So instead of doing the low and slow climb up a mountain and then down on the other side, you just have 10-15 feet of like extreme grade like they do on the back side of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, where there are stairs that most people see, but then if you go around the back of Docking Bay 7, there is a switchback of grades to get folks down probably about a similar amount of height. Over my shoulder, you can see what the bridge looks like from a distance. Sometimes grades and coming and going is a little bit deceiving when you're actually on it. But when we look at this from the island, we get the full idea of not only how tall the bridge is, but how long it goes, and maybe even more importantly, how much space do we have to deal with for whatever comes next. And now directly on the other side of me over on the Rivers of America, you can see the crest, the apex of this bridge. That's the top height that we currently have. And then as we work our way over to Critter Country, we can see that downgrade that happens on the other side. So if you're curious just how low this grade goes, I'm standing at sort of maybe the almost bottom of the grade. And when you walk over to get onto the Davy Crockett Explorer canoes, there are 9 steps to get you down to the water level. So at the top of the pathway across from Hungry Bear, the grade starts out at 6 degrees. Once we get up to the walkway in front of where you get onto the canoes, the grade resets itself to about 4 degrees. But then as we go from the edge of the canoes all the way up to the apex of the bridge, there it goes from 4 to 6 degrees. Just when we do Fowler's Harbor, we have to go up 4 stairs, about 2 feet to get up to this bridge where it starts taking off again to get us over the top of where all of our friends are going to be returning back around in their flumes after dropping in on Tiana's Bayou adventure. By the way, if you want to see my review of that attraction out of the Magic Kingdom, I'll link it below in the description of this video. But let's say that you have to come out from the outer edge of the Rivers of America, going from the east side of the park to the west side of the park. This grade is even more crazy than the one on the other side, getting you up to 15 degrees pretty fast and taking you up to a peak of about 20 to 25 degrees at the very apex of the current bridge. Though there is a much flatter sidewalk behind me, sometimes the way that we get routed isn't totally up to us, forcing someone in a wheelchair to have to come up this way steeper grade. I'm using a wheelchair as an example. There are strollers, older folks, people that just have a problem walking. Like, there are so many case studies, different types of folks that these steep hills on both sides will affect, or do affect every day. And now from this angle, we have just the dead shot look going straight up the current path of the bridge. I would almost guarantee you they are not going to reroute the shoreline of the river, but how they're going to build inside of this little space that we're looking at now from above in Google Earth. There are so many different ways that this problem could get solved or get rerouted, which comes to why I love doing this channel and I love coming here, because I love all the creative problem solving that happens inside of Disneyland. And as always, that's always done within designing within constraints, where there's only so much land. There's a problem that needs to be fixed, and this is where creativity is put to the challenge. And that's my favorite part of all of this. When we use all the different people standing on the dock as sort of an indication for our brains how tall this actually is, you can see that there are people walking on the top part of the current grade, and you can see down below at the Davy Crockett Explorer Canoes level, and there's quite a distance between the two different heights. So what happens here could end up being nothing or could be everything. Like, do the canoes get rerouted? There is room as we go over to the Hungry Bear, but I'm fascinated. I am truly fascinated about how all this is going to come together. And as a curiosity, I wonder, did they make the peak like over dramatic for an aesthetic purpose, and they can actually just lower the actual crest from the attraction? Or are we looking at expanding the length of this grade, so they're going to have to, transition somewhere over here in New Orleans Square and then retransition somewhere over in Critter Country, so that the grade is, maybe more even, because 20-something degrees on one side and 6 degrees on the other side sounds like there might be a better center point where this could kind of crest instead of it being so lopsided and so long on one side. But fascinating to see how all this is going to come together. And once again, this is a theory that this is something that's happening. But when we look at all the closures, makes sense. Now keep in mind, another major part of all of this is that there is going to be the exit through the gift shop over at the Haunted Mansion, to where when we are done going through the mansion, we'll come up on an old carriage house that will be an exit gift shop that will be themed around Madame Liotta. I'm expecting something like the shop that we see when we get off of the Haunted Mansion out at Magic Kingdom. I'm talking about Memento Mori. Now, not the actual shape of that building, but the line of merchandise that you can find in there. That building will be created as a transitional building, so when you come out of the Haunted Mansion, you can't completely look over and see Tiana's Bayou Adventure. They haven't even gone vertical on that yet, which is a big part of why everything has to get pushed out, because obviously that walkway through there is very, very narrow. They're going to want to have full access to the outer edges of that building so they can do that construction. But that also is exactly where the bridge starts, the current bridge starts. And I have heard complaints about this bridge from folks for quite some time. And because it was all put there under the original Splash Mountain, it could stay the way that it was, even though it's outside of current zoning laws. But if they change a certain amount of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, does that restrict and remove some of the current zoning laws? Because 20-something degrees on one side in a short burst is pretty steep, and then the long roll on the other side, that just can't be easy for all types of different folks. Grades inside of theme parks are one of those things that you probably don't notice it until you do notice it, until it becomes a problem for you and how you navigate the park, which means that this bridge I'm talking about, maybe this has never even been a worry or a concern of yours, but I was going up and over the bridge once with my friend Ben, and he explained to me that this was one of the hardest parts that he has to navigate inside of the park. And I would recommend checking out his channel, Adventures Beyond Adversity, where he and his girl Carly do such a great job of giving you a completely different perspective of navigating your way through Disneyland. I see the park so much differently because of my friendship with both Ben and Carly. So thank you both for always allowing me to expand my horizons and my greater understanding of this place that I love so much. But it was my friend Ben from Adventures Beyond Adversity that brought this whole thing to my attention, because I had just always cruised up over it, and on the other side I'm an extremely fast walker and I just don't really think about the terrain that's around me. But ever since Ben brought this up when we were cruising up over the bridge one day, I've often thought about, when is this gonna get fixed? I mean, friends, kind of the ultimate proof in how big these grades are, whether you're going from east to west or west to east, is Disney was able to hide a 3-story building in the middle of this bridge. And if you want to learn more about that, check out this video right here.